I got a girl. So the last video I talked about knowing your family trauma so you can live a life that you understand that allows you to go deeper. I know that's hard to do sometimes. Now, I'm gonna try to make that link how growing up you didn't have, because your parents didn't know what it's like to be parents. Well, they had kids. Again, I'm not gonna try to judge anybody, but they are people who have kids, or parents who have kids and have kids taking care of kids. And I was one of those kids. My parents had kids, and I was responsible for taking care of many of my siblings. I mean, literally taking care of them. Anything you can think a parent could do, getting them up, putting them to bed, and sometimes financial support, all of it. And now, to me, that was my trauma and a whole lot more. Of course, there's more there. If you've been watching different videos, you'll see that too. I've talked about that, from abuse to you name it. But I think too often parents have kids and then expect the kids to take care of kids. And to me, that's like that. I mean, that shaped my decision to have kids or not to have kids very early on. I know I've come a long way, but very early on, I made the decision because of these experiences so early on in my life. I said, okay, that wasn't for me because I saw how much work it was. But no, my decision, have changed since. But yeah, I think you have parents, whether because of their trauma, whether it's alcohol or drugs or other issues that they're experiencing, where the kids are forced to take on the responsibility of the parent. And if you are one of the folks who actually went through that, like I did, again, I come from a huge family. And it's not just me, my other siblings had to do that too. But I think for my mother in particular, as the oldest girl, the responsibilities I had to take, and I have 6 younger siblings who come after me, that experience was something else. Again, really early on in my life, I knew I made a decision. I didn't know I don't care who I was going to marry or not, but I had made a decision that kids were not for me because of what I went through, the responsibilities of caring for them. Yes, since then, I've come a long way, and I don't have these thinking anymore. But I think there are parents who have kids thinking that the kids will take care of one another when they get to be a certain age. And I think that's a result of trauma too. They've gone through some things, or they feel like, oh, okay, this kid is old enough, then they can help. I never had a childhood as a result of that because I had so much adult responsibilities. I mean, I just didn't. So I had to, as an adult, when people were doing things like kids used to do, I didn't have those things. I don't relate to them. So, we all, again, I don't think they're bad. It's just my experience. In fact, part of it too, I think, changed me. The relationship with some of my siblings too is different. Some of them see me as this slowly, I think, I've come a long way trying to build relationships like sisters and brothers with my siblings versus, being the second mom, as my mother would put it. What I'm grateful for the experiences and the blessings. Again, the flip side of that, I feel like traumatized me in some way, right? Because I had to make decisions like thinking, oh my gosh, it scared me very early on. But I think it's because of these experiences, I am who I am too. That's why I can relate to a lot of issues that people don't understand. They've called me old soul. Well, I've had experience in a lot of areas in my life, which I'm grateful for, but also have traumatized me, but forced me to look within and being able to share those things. So if you're a parent who is, maybe your kids are under 18, maybe they're under 10, whatever it is that you have them doing to take care of the next child, you got to think of yourself. If I was that child, maybe you went through it, but what did it do for you when you went through it? And what are you doing to your child? You're forcing, not forcing, but you giving the responsibility to care for another sibling. What is that doing to that child? Like, try to put yourself in their shoes, or maybe ask that child, like, how do you feel about those things? But I think because we grew up that way, we automatically think it's normal for a child or an older sibling to help the other, and not thinking that older child too needs something that perhaps they didn't get from you. Again, that cycle that we are building, or at least was passed on down, we don't understand what is it doing to the next generation. So if you're a parent who's having your child, or one of your older child, or however you're having your children taking care of the younger ones, what are you providing for these kids who are taking these responsibilities? How are you handling it? I'd like to know, because I went through that, and I personally feel like if I have kids, I will not give them the responsibilities that I was given to when I was a kid. And all the way to adult, right? I feel like the responsibilities, it wasn't my decision for my parents to have kids. That was their decision. I shouldn't have to take care of my younger siblings for the sake of, one, I'm responsible, or I'm the oldest girl, or blah blah blah. When my parents were getting together, I didn't know. I mean, I wasn't even alive. So why should you give your child the responsibility to take care of something that you created? I like to understand that, because again, maybe it's because I went through it. I am gonna try to, going back to the generational thing that I talked about on the last video, is my mom experienced something, she didn't want her kids to experience it. And I think for me, that's where mine come in. I went through the process of caring for siblings literally my whole life until I could leave home. Even when I left home for college, I still had responsibilities to help with some financially. I was working so many jobs in college because I had a responsibility to help my family. Like, I don't want those for my kids if I end up having kids getting, I just feel like that's a decision I make. I should be able to take that responsibility. But the generation before me didn't think that way. And I see generation that's my age and younger who are having to step up because parents who have kids can't step up and be parents. So again, I'm not judging anybody, because things come up where our kids have to help. There are circumstances where we have no control, but there are things we have control over, and you see that parents expect the older siblings to be able to care for the younger ones. And I just never understand that. Again, I come from a country, a generation, a family. I went through that, and I just could never understand it. Like taking a childhood from a child, because two grown up people, you would expect grown up to make the decision to have kids and to take on that responsibility, and just couldn't. But we, look up to their older siblings or older kids to play that role. And I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's a good thing. Because really, your kids shouldn't have to suffer because of the decision that you and your husband made, and they'll feel like, okay, the kids got to take part of that because we can't do it, So, and if you are a parent with the only child, for whatever reason that was your choice, I'm not saying, yay, because I do know friends who are the only child and having to take care of parents too. For whatever reason, parents are, where they're turned to drugs or some other stuff. Again, in cases where circumstances do arise, That's what we do with family. We got to step up. But we're kids having to take care of kids and adults. I could never understand that. And I think that's where we damage our kids. We traumatize our kids, which force them to live in circumstances mentally and emotionally where they're just lost. And again, I think all these are factors that are part of what result of so many kids living in circumstances where they can't live their full potential in life. Anyhow, that's my 2 cents on that one. All right, got a girl. Ciao.